The first time anyone noticed her, she was standing at the edge of the pier, with her hands folded around a paper cup of coffee, steam curling up into the cold morning air. The Navy SEALs were already there, laughing, stretching, slapping each other on the back as the sun climbed over the harbor. Cameras were set up, banners flapped in the breeze, and a small crowd gathered for what had been advertised as a charity challenge, an endurance course designed to raise money for families of fallen service members. It was meant to be tough, it was meant to be exclusive, and it was meant to remind everyone watching just how extraordinary these men were. No one expected the old woman. She looked out of place in every possible way, while the SEALs wore fitted training gear and carried themselves with effortless strength. She wore a long gray coat that seemed too thin for the wind, and sensible shoes that had seen better days. Her white hair was pulled back neatly, and her face was lined in a way that suggested a life of both laughter and loss. She stood quietly, watching, not intruding, as if she were content simply to witness the spectacle and then disappear back into the crowd. The announcer's voice boomed across the pier, explaining the rules, hyping the challenge, reminding everyone that what they were about to see was not for the faint of heart. The course would test strength, balance, endurance, and teamwork. It would end with a brutal final station that very few people outside the SEALs community had ever completed. The crowd cheered. The SEALs grinned. This was familiar territory. This was where they shined. As the first team launched into the course, the old woman sipped her coffee and followed their movements with surprising focus. She watched how they timed their breathing, how they encouraged one another, how they adapted when something didn't go exactly as planned. When a younger man in the crowd scoffed under his breath, muttering that this was next-level stuff, she smiled faintly, as if she understood something he didn't. Between runs, while the announcer reset the energy with jokes and applause, the old woman took a few careful steps forward. She raised her hand, tentative but steady. The announcer noticed her late, squinting into the crowd. "Yes, ma'am?" he asked, microphone amplifying both curiosity and amusement. She cleared her throat. "Could I go next?" For a moment, there was silence. Then laughter rippled through the crowd. Not cruel laughter, not entirely, but the kind that comes from surprise and disbelief. A few of the SEALs exchanged looks, eyebrows raised. One of them chuckled openly, shaking his head. "This course?" someone called out gently. "It's pretty intense." The announcer smiled awkwardly, trying to keep things light. "I think maybe you'd like to cheer us on from the side, ma'am." The old woman didn't bristle or retreat. She simply nodded, as if she'd expected the response. "I understand," she said. "I just thought I'd ask." She stepped back, and the challenge resumed. The SEALs ran again, muscles straining, teamwork flawless. The crowd roared approval. Yet more than one person noticed that the old woman didn't leave. She stayed, watching every round, her eyes bright, her posture attentive. When someone stumbled, she winced. When someone succeeded, she clapped softly, her smile widening. During a break, one of the SEALs, his name tape read Martinez, wandered toward the water to cool off. He noticed the old woman standing alone, and moved by something he couldn't quite name, approached her. "Having a good time?" he asked kindly. She looked up at him, eyes warm. "Very much. You all are remarkable." "Thank you," he said. Then, almost apologetically, "About earlier, the course really is dangerous." She nodded. "I know. I wouldn't want to be a burden. Something in the way she said it made his chest tighten. What brought you out here today? He asked. She hesitated, then answered softly. My grandson. Martinez waited. He wanted to be like you, she continued. Strong, brave, willing to help others no matter the cost. Martinez didn't ask the question he already knew the answer to. He didn't come home, she said, simply. The noise of the event seemed to fade for a moment. Martinez swallowed. I'm sorry, he said, the words feeling inadequate. So am I, she replied, but her smile returned. That's why I'm glad you're all here. This matters. When Martinez returned to his team, he couldn't shake the feeling that they'd missed something important. As the final round was announced, he spoke up. What if we let her try? His teammates stared at him. You serious? Supervised, he said quickly. Modified if needed. We say this event is about honoring families. She is family. There was a pause. Pride wrestled with compassion. Then one of the senior SEALs nodded. One station, he said. We'll see. The announcer was informed. The crowd murmured as the old woman was invited forward once more. She seemed surprised, then deeply moved. She removed her coat, revealing a simple sweater beneath, and stepped onto the course. The first station was balance. A narrow beam stretched over shallow water. The old woman placed one foot in front of the other, arms out, moving slowly but deliberately. She wobbled once, then steadied herself, eyes focused ahead. The crowd grew quiet. When she reached the end, applause broke out, tentative at first, then enthusiastic. The second station required endurance, a weighted carry. The SEALs adjusted the load, offering her a lighter option. She shook her head. I can manage, she said. She lifted the weight with surprising resolve, her face set with determination. Step by step, she moved forward, breathing hard but refusing to stop. Martinez walked beside her, ready to help, but she waved him off gently. I've carried heavier things, she said. Grief teaches you that. By the time she reached the end, tears streaked her cheeks, but she was smiling. The final station loomed, the one everyone had whispered about. A wall, tall and unforgiving, designed to be climbed only with strength and coordination. The SEALs exchanged looks. This was impossible. This was where it would end. The old woman stood before the wall and placed her palm against it. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, her voice was steady. I know I can't climb this the way you do, she said, but I think there's another way. She turned to the crowd. This wall, she said, gesturing behind her, is the distance between us when we think strength only looks one way. Help me, and I'll show you something. The SEALs hesitated, then understood. One knelt, forming a step. Another offered his shoulder. Slowly, carefully, they built a human ladder, not lifting her, but supporting her as she climbed. The crowd held its breath. At the top, she paused, looking out over the harbor. The flags, the faces turned upward. When she reached the other side and stood on solid ground, the impossible had happened. Not because she'd conquered the wall alone, but because everyone had changed what they thought was possible. The applause was thunderous. Some people wiped their eyes openly. The old woman turned back, her voice trembling. My grandson used to say that the strongest people are the ones who make room for others, she said. Today, you made room for me. Martinez felt tears blur his vision. He realized then that the challenge had never been about proving how tough they were. It had been about remembering why they served in the first place. As the event ended and the crowd dispersed, the old woman gathered her coat. Martinez walked her to the edge of the pier. "Thank you," he said, "for reminding us." She smiled up at him. "Thank you for listening." She walked away slowly, blending into the city beyond the harbor. But long after she was gone, the seals stood quieter than before, carrying with them a lesson no training course had ever taught them. That true strength is not measured by what you can do alone, but by how willingly you lift someone else when the wall looks too high.